Hi everyone. I'm just going to demonstrate how to use one of this inexpensive drafting kits that the manufacturer calls this rapid drawing board. This is an inexpensive solution to the requirement for some minor drawings, kind of school projects, and in the professional world, when it comes to drafting and architectural designs, you need the real deal. Okay, so this is comprised of a few components. The main one, which is what the manufacturer calls it, sturdy. What do you call it? They call this the sturdy board body. Okay, so the sturdy board body comes with a few components. They've got these tilters, or the legs that they're actually attached to the back edge here. So as you could see, there are these pins that need to go through these grooves in the back. There is one here and there is one on the other side. So the leg is got two uneven lengths, or the L shape has got two uneven legs for different heights of the tilt that you desire. So you need to line up this notch and the pin of the tilter and go like so and swing it down. The same on this side here. So this will tilt your board up so it's easier to draw. So as opposed to being sitting flat. And you've got the option of having the longer leg to tilt this a bit higher than the previous one. So you just go with a slightly greater angle of tilt. Alright, so for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to use the tilters because the camera will not have a good angle. So I'm just going to put these away so they're not in our way. So the components that we're going to be using are, the first one, it's the sliding square or sliding scale. So as you can see, it's got these guides, and the guides basically will be inserted into the two channels here that we've got here, and it allows basically the scale to slide up and down, and this system, it's permanently lubricated, so it has a permanent lubricant applied to it during the manufacture. So when you slide this up and down, you want to lock it in place. So it's got a friction lock mechanism, and it's great for doing a number of things. One is to basically engaging your rapid set square. So it sits inside this groove here and slides back and forth. Okay, so basically you will have a perfectly vertical line drawn wherever you want, within the range of your board, or a 45-degree angle. Okay, so this could be to the bottom, down to the bottom guide, or to the top one. Okay, this is pretty handy, and of course you could use the edges for drawing the straight horizontal lines. In addition to the rapid set square, we do have the drafting square that the manufacturer calls it, but in simple term you can call it the adjustable square. So again, it basically engages with this guide here, slides back and forth, and it's got this locking nut here that basically loosens the locking system here, unlocks it, and you could adjust uh, the square to your desired angle, and you'll just lock it in place by rotating this. You don't want to be too uh, apply too much torque to this, because this is made of plastic and easily gets stripped. So just enough to hold your square in place. As I mentioned, this is just meant for school projects, and it's not a super accurate drafting kit. For $55–60, you get what you pay for. Okay, and in addition to this set square and the drafting square that we have, we've got basically a protractor incorporated into the design of the scale, or the sliding straight edge, or sliding square, as well as one in the within the set square here. All right, so this is basically how this drafting kit or the drawing kit works. Now, we do have these basically magnetic strip clamps here. They're designed, one on the left hand and one on the bottom edge, and they're designed to be tilted when you depress this part here. Okay, and you would be allowed, or you could, insert your drawing sheet underneath these grips. If I could do this. Something is stopping it. No, it's the lifter. It's the lifting mechanism. So, okay, so I'm gonna, whenever you're doing this, you want to make sure that your paper, whenever you're producing a drawing, you want to make sure that your paper is as square to the board, because the guides are square to the board. So we do have a nice border printed on our drawing sheet. You could either use this line or this line. This line, our paper doesn't slide too far down. This is as far as it goes, but laterally moves in and out. It does move in enough, so I could align this borderline here with the edge of the magnetic clamp here. Okay, and in the corner here, there's actually another clamp in the corner that because our paper is slightly longer than this board would allow, it doesn't go inside here. Otherwise, it would go in there, you press this button down, and it will allow the paper to be clamped there. Since it doesn't allow that, what I'm going to do is to grab a piece of the Scotch tape and I stick it to my hand a couple of times, just to reduce its adhesion, so it is adhesive enough just to tack the paper down to the board, so it's secured, so it doesn't move on us. Okay, there was a bit of a kink in it. I took that out. Okay, so what we are doing is we're going to draw this block in perspective view. Normally, the perspective view is one of the projects of this particular, or one of the drawings of this particular project that it seems to be the least easy one to draw. Okay, so this is the top view, front view, side view, left side view, and the bottom view. So the method that we're going to use is 2-point perspective, and demonstrating this drawing, basically method, so just to see how easily you could produce a relatively nice drawing by just having the basic equipment and following the basic principles of a perspective drawing. Okay, so first off, for a perspective drawing, you need your vanishing points. The vanishing points normally go, we ask you guys to put the vanishing points in the top right corner and the top left corner. I have seen a variety of drawings for this particular block, and one was made by AutoCAD. So somebody used an AutoCAD basically software, and when I extended the horizontal lines, the vanishing lines, they ended up at vanishing points similar to what I'm going to use here. So one was kind of here, and the other one was about a couple of inches lower than the other one on the left side, which is here. So I'm just going to use these two vanishing points. Perspective drawing, if you don't have a large enough work surface area, or in other words, if your vanishing points are too close to your object, the object is going to, after you draw it, is going to look very unrealistic and stretched in a weird way that it's not going to be very pleasing visually. But that's the best you could do. If you have the option of having your vanishing points 2 feet further away from where they are in the same direction, if you could put them in a basically in a location that you could actually use those vanishing points so far away, the object is going to look a lot more realistic than what you're going to get here. But we're going to be happy with these vanishing points. Okay, so the same AutoCAD drawing that I saw, the vanishing points were kind of in relation, the same relationship that they have here. That's what I found and what I remember. And this edge, this vertical edge, is going to be our focal point, the corner closest to us. And that was not right down the middle in between. It was off to one side a little bit more than the other side. So I'm just going to draw it here. This vertical line, I'm going to draw it here, because the relationship that basically the location of the block where you start and the vanishing points that they have, they will determine how this block is going to be stretched and drawn when you do your drawing. Okay, so I'm going to start here for our vertical lines. So we are going to scale the drawing up by 2. So our scale is going to be 2 to 1. So our scale is going to be 2 to 1, meaning our drawing is going to be twice as big as the actual block. Okay, so the measurements are, some of these measurements are not even and round. I'm just going to round them up or down for the ease of, for the simplicity of the calculations. So our block is about 2 inches and 33 thousandths. I'm just going to call it 2 inches, just to make it easier. Okay, so, or we could actually go with this. 30 thou is too much to round down. Let me see, what do I, oh, actually it's 2 inches and 7 thou. There is a deformation here that caused that. Oh, okay, so I was clamping it in the wrong spot. So it's 2 inches and 8 thou, so I'm going to round it down to 2 inches. So 2 inches for width, and for the height, we've got, what do we have? We have, for height we have 2.4, what do we have here? 2.436. We're going to call it 2.45. I'm going to write these down on a separate piece of paper to have a quick reference. So the width I'm just going to draw a block. I'm just going to draw a random block for our measurements. Okay, so the width of our block is 2 inches, and the height is 2.45. I rounded it up to 2 inches and 450 thou, and the depth of it is 1.182. Let's call it 1.18. Okay, so these are the actual measurements. We're going to double these measurements up. And I'll have this up here so I could actually see it easily. Okay, so first things first, we need to draw this vertical edge first. So it doesn't matter what projection style, what projection method you're going to draw. You're going to draw your object in a block first. We're going to forget about these dimensions and the angles of these shoulders and how these legs are. So we're going to start with a block that's got the width, height, and the depth measurements, dimensions of this block here, and then we'll basically transfer our measurements onto the block and do our line work, and basically we'll come up with the drawing that looks like our block here. Okay, so I'm going to use my sliding straight edge or sliding square. So this is a little bit, you need to be patient with this drafting kit because we have paid $55 for it, so you can't expect too much. Alright, so set my, engage my rapid set square, and I lock my sliding square or sliding straight edge. Now I could draw my my vertical line, which is supposed to be twice as high as our actual height. Our actual height is 2.45. I'm going to double it up. It's going to be 2.45 times 2 is 4.9. So 4.9 is going to be, this is our starting point. 4.9, I'm going to this is my 4.9 mark here. I lined it up at the bottom of the line, and I put a little dot here. So you want to be careful when you're drawing a project like this. You want to reduce your work, or you don't want to add too much work for yourself. So you want to draw the lines as long as there's, as long or as wide as they need to be, so it reduces your erasing. The more you need to erase, the more smudge marks you're going to get, and the more construction lines, leftovers are going to be visible. Okay, so this is our height, which is 4.9 inches, doubled up. Okay, so this is this corner closest to us. Now we need to draw the width and the depth. I decide this side to be representing my width here. Okay, so the main concept of perspective drawing is for the horizontal lines to converge or to join each other at the same vanishing point. So meaning these little legs, they do have a little surface here, right? Even though it's about 100 thou, they do have horizontal surfaces or horizontal edges. This is a horizontal edge. This is a horizontal edge. These two shoulders are on the same horizontal plane, the centers of these holes are on the same horizontal plane. So all of these horizontal edges are going to end up at this vanishing point. Okay? So I'm going to start by drawing one line that represents the bottom of these legs and one that represents the top of the block. And for that, I will need a longer scale that I've got a 2 foot long machinist scale. Okay, so when you are producing a drawing like this, you want to be as accurate as possible when it comes to alignment of your scale for the drawing to have a better quality. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line from the top of my vertical line to this vanishing point. Okay, so that's the top one, and the bottom one, this is the bottom of those little legs. So I'll do the same thing to the bottom edge here. You want to press hard on this straight edge so it's not going to slide on you. Okay. So these are the top and bottom edges. So I'm done for the time being with this side. Now I need to do the same thing to the other side to produce this surface or the depth surface here. So I'll do the same thing. I line up my vanishing point with the top of the block. I'm going to draw these lines a little bit darker than what you need to do, and the reason for that is so you could see it you could see the line work easier. If you draw them this dark, you're going to have a hard time erasing them. So for the purpose of the video, I'm drawing these lines darker than I'm supposed to, or you are supposed to. Okay, so there we go. We got the depth and we got the width as well as the height, right? So this is the 4.9. Now we need to transfer our dimensions to our drawing. Our dimensions, the width of the block is 2 inches. We're going to double it up, and that's going to be 4 inches. Then we're going to mark it here. Okay? So something about perspective drawing is that all the dimensions, or all drawings anyways, all the dimensions are taken from one reference edge. So for our purpose, I'm going to use the left side as our reference edge for the lateral measurements and the bottom edge for our vertical measurements. Okay, so all the measurements need to be for lateral measurements. All the lateral measurements must be marked on the same line as you go along, because if you mark your width measurement on the bottom line here and the depth or the width of the shoulder on the top edge is going to affect how less realistic the drawing is going to be, or it reduces the quality of your drawing. Okay, so 2 inches is going to be 4 inches doubled up. So I'm going to use my machinist scale, and it would be nicer to use an inch mark anywhere along the length of your scale for a better accuracy. So I'm going to go from 4-inch mark, and I'm going to mark a location at the 8-inch, which is 4 inches. I'm going to put a little dot there. That's our width. And for the depth is 1.18. The actual depth is 1.18. Doubled up would be 2.36. 2.36. I'm going to line up my 360 thou here, which is here, and this is 4.36. So my basically marking point is going to be at the 2-inch mark here. That will basically work out to be 2.36. 2 inches and 360 thou. So now all you got to do now is to project a line vertically from this location to connect it with the upper edge. Okay, so you're gonna need to use this sliding square. I keep saying sliding square because many people call it sliding square. Okay, so it's locked in place. So I'm going to draw a line up from where my mark is, halfway, and the rest of the line would be drawn downward from the top edge, so I won't have to, so my line is not going to intersect the upper edge, so it's not going to cross it, so that basically reduces my erasing work. So I need to go a bit higher here. Okay, make sure it's locked, because when it's locked, it's a square. Line up the edge of my square nice and neatly. Okay, so we've got the two sides now drawn. All I gotta do now to complete my block, imagine if you're basically making this out of a block of aluminum. So you're gonna start with a block with these dimensions and then do your cutting and all that and drilling and all that to come up with the final project. So we're gonna do the same thing with a drawing. We're gonna start with a block and then do our line work from there. Okay, so again, this edge is parallel with this edge, so it's going to have to end up at the same vanishing point. So this line here needs to converge at this point with this line here. So I'm going to use my scale to try to do my best to hold. First of all, to line up my scale where it's supposed to be, and also hold it down nice and tight. Okay, so that's for that edge. And the other edge, the back edge of the width of that block. Okay, check twice, 3 times if it's required, just to make sure your line work is going to be nice and neat, because the neatness is one of the factors that affect your mark. Okay, so there's our block. This is a block that is drawn in perspective. Okay, so this is what we're going to start with. So, what we could do now, we could start anywhere we want, but it would be probably, I don't know, I'm going to start with the legs. So the legs, I need to know how wide they are and how long they are. So I need to measure this recess and as well as the thickness of the leg. So the leg's measurement is 105 thou. Okay, it's the same on this side is 108 thou. So we're going to call it 110. Okay, for the simplicity of math. And the depth is 75 thou. Okay, so the legs, this dimension is 0.75, and this dimension is 110 thou. So I need another 0 here, 0. Ooh. So 0.075. Okay, so I know what my measurements are. You don't want to make any mistakes. Okay, so again, the width the width or the thickness of the legs are lateral measurements, and they're going to be transferred to this line here, and the recess of the leg or the height of the leg is going to be marked on this vertical edge, not on this one. All the vertical measurements are, I'm going to use this edge here for all the vertical measurements. Okay, so we've got a width of 100, or the thickness of 110 thou. Double it up, that is 220 thou. 220 thou. I will quickly sharpen my pencil, so it adds to the accuracy of my measurement, especially such a small measurement. 220 thou that way. 220 thou. This is the 220 thou. 220 thou. So this is 4 inches minus 220 thou. It's going to be 3 inches and 3 inches and 780. 3.780. I'll do the math just to make sure I'm not wrong. So 4 inches minus 0.220, 3.78. 3.78 from this point that way. 3.780. I'll start from the 4-inch mark, and I need to mark this at 7.780 for the basically for the thickness of the far leg. Okay, let me double check and see if that measurement is 220. It is 220 thou, kind of 220, 230 thou. Okay, now for the height, our height is 75 thou times 2 is 150 thou. So I will mark the 150 thou on this vertical leg here. 150 thou. I'm going to align the 150 thou here with the bottom, and 6 inch would be where I need to be. Okay, now since we're talking about parallel edges ending up at the same vanishing point, I'm going to project a line from this point to this vanishing point. Okay, so it's going to be like so, so, okay, hold it down nice and secure, and there you go. That's the height of those legs. Now I need to draw their width line or thickness lines that are these guys here. So again, I want to make sure that the line is exactly where you want it to be. I need to mention again that I'm drawing these lines slightly, a lot darker than they're supposed to be. When you're drawing them, they need to be lighter, a lot lighter, that you could barely see them. That makes it easier when you're erasing them. Okay, so because you need to erase this portion of this vanishing line here, this portion, and this whole thing need to be erased. So these are the legs. Okay, so really there is not much to drawing. You got to start with a square paper and then draw your lines nice and straight. You use the correct drafting tools, and pay attention that your lines are going to, the line work is going to be nice and neat. That's all there is to it, and patience, of course. Okay, now I could start working on these shoulders. Okay, this is just preference. You could start anything that you want to draw. Okay, so the shoulders, I just want to come up with the outline and then work work through the rest of it. So the shoulders are let's see how wide the shoulders are. The shoulders are 502 thou. So half inch here, half inch here. So that'll make this 1 inch. Should be 1 inch. So 980 thou, is it? So 988. So 990. 990 thousandths of an inch. So my shoulder is half inch in, doubled up, so it's going to be 1 inch. 1 inch. Since the width of the shoulder is a lateral measurement, I'm going to mark it on this line here, on the on my vanishing line here. So okay, 1 inch is going to be marked on this line here. Right there. That's the first shoulder, and the other shoulder is 1 inch in. So this is 4 inches, 1 inch in, it's 3 inches. So from 13 inch, I will go, and 3 inches that way. That'll make my measurement to end up at 16 inch mark. Okay, so those are where my shoulders are widthwise. So what I'm going to do, the shoulders don't go all the way to the bottom. So I'm just going to use my rapid set square and line it up with my mark here. It'd be nice to keep my pencil sharp the whole time. Just a little sharpening there. So I don't have to draw this line all the way to the bottom, because then I'll need to erase it later. So instead of drawing it all the way to the bottom, I'll just draw it down to about there. Just line up my set square with my mark here. Okay, so this one goes down to about here, which is probably longer than what I need. Okay, so this is the thickness of the head that I'm going to be left with. Okay, I don't need to measure it. Okay, now what I need to do is to draw my slanted shoulder here. I need to figure out this measurement, this height measurement, and this height measurement, where the shoulder starts and stops. The lower point and the higher point. It's going to be the same for both. Okay, so the lower point of the shoulders measures 1.800 thou. Okay, 1.8 times 2 is 3.6. So I'll remove this again. There's a lot of work in removing and reattaching your components. So 3.6. I'm gonna start from 3.6. I will start from the 2 inch mark here and go up 3.6, and that'll make my measurement reading, at least on the scale, 5.6. 5.6 is the lower part of the shoulder. Gonna put a little dot here. Okay, and the higher point, the top of the shoulder, measures, what does it measure? The top of the shoulder measures 1.905. We're going to just round it down to 1.9. 1.9 times 2 is 3.8. So from the 2 inch mark again, go up to 5.8. This is going to be the top of the shoulder. Remember, all the vertical measurements are going to be marked on this line here. Okay, so the lower points of the shoulders, both shoulders, they're both on the same plane, same horizontal plane. So there is a line. If you drew a line from here this way horizontally, it'll connect them both. So we need to draw a line from this point to the vanishing point to represent the location of these lower points of the shoulders, and the same thing for the high points of the tops. Okay, so the lower point is going to be, that's the lower point and that's my vanishing point. Okay, I want to make sure that everything is as accurate as possible. So start here. You really, in the real world, when you're drawing, you just put a little dot here. You won't even draw that line there. So it reduces your basically erasing. What I could do, I could basically just transfer that measurement to this side, just making sure that my vanishing line is there. So I'm not going to draw the vanishing line all the way across my drawing here. I'm just going to stop it there. And one for the top of the shoulder, which is going to be here. So basically, this is the top of the shoulder, which is here and here. Okay, I'll just do that. Now all I've got to do is to connect these 2 points, the top of the shoulder to the bottom of the shoulder, to the top to bottom, just to represent these surfaces, or those edges. So what I will do, use my shorter scale and connect these 2 points. Make sure your line work is as accurate as possible. So I'm going to start from this point halfway this way, from this point halfway, or the rest of the way that way. Okay, and the same thing on this side here. Obviously, the slope of the shoulder is not going to be pronounced on the far side because it's perspective. Okay, so these are the shoulders. Okay, just going to try and see how easy is it to get rid of this extra construction line that I've got. So you want to be able to erase these lines. You could actually, as you go along, remove the construction lines as you don't need them, just erase them, because they've done the work, what they're supposed to do, and you're done with them. Okay, so this is getting closer to the outline of our project. Now I need to, because we've got the bird's eye view of this block, I need to basically block the top here. So I need to project a line from here that way, and one from here that way to this vanishing point. So I'll just go ahead and do that to complete the top of my block. So this is where I gotta start. That's one. This is the other. You could actually align your scale by testing, see if your pen, the way that your pen is going to be put against the side of the scale, is going to end up exactly where you want it. Okay, so the top of our block is now basically blocked. So now we've got a square that represents the top of our block. Now what's missing is this edge, and this portion here that we only see that we only see a little bit of it. This edge here, we only see just about a quarter of it or so on the far shoulder, for the far shoulder. So again, do the same line work for the lower edge of the shoulder of the block. Okay. Oops. See, this is what I'm talking about. My finger, no. It's the good thing is that it happened outside of my drawing. Okay. For your eraser, you want to use a good quality eraser so it doesn't leave any smudge marks behind. It'll affect your marks. Okay, so I drew this edge. Now the next one is to draw this corner here. I need to draw a line that represents this corner. Okay, so that's going to be from here that way. So here we go. That's that corner there. I'll do the same thing. This edge of the far shoulder needs to be drawn. So I'll do the same thing here from this corner all the way to this vanishing point. So just going to see if my scale is lined up properly. So my line work looks nice. Here we go. Now we got this edge drawn. Okay. Now what's missing? What is missing here is this edge on the back. This edge on the back of the neck or the head is missing here, and also this line, this edge of the shoulder is missing back here. What we have here is the corner of these two edges right there. We have this corner. So all I got to do is to project a line down vertically that's going to meet here, and where that ends, I'm going to draw my slanted edge from there. Okay, so I will need my sliding element attached and the rapid set square. A quick sharpening of my pencil, and I draw up a line from this corner down to this line here. So check and check twice before you make a mistake. Mistakes happen when you don't check. So halfway down and halfway up, so I don't have to do any erasing. So that's the back edge of the head, the rear edge. Now I need to draw the same rear edge, the rear slanted edge. So I can actually try, let me see, no, it doesn't work. It doesn't work easily. So I'm going to use my scale that I've been using and used to using it. So halfway this way and halfway this way. There we go. Now I've got the shoulder drawn with the slope. I don't even worry about the angle of the shoulder as a slope for the purpose of this drawing. But if I need to send this drawing to someone to make me one of these blocks or more, I will give them this angle as opposed to the heights. Okay, I will give them the angle of the shoulder. Since it's in perspective, you cannot rely on a protractor to come up with this angle here. Okay. Now, what else can we do? So we got our shoulders drawn, we got the legs drawn. Now we could move on to these three holes in the front. Okay. So the holes, I know that the holes are 3/4 of an inch in diameter. 757 thou. So we're going to call these 750 thou. Okay, all three are the same. So Holes are usually dimension of the holes or the location of the hole is measured from a reference edge to the center of the hole. This being 750 thou, okay? So the halfway or the radius of this hole is 0.375, 3/8, and then plus this thickness here, this sidewall here. What do we have here? We got 137 thou. We're gonna call it 140. So it's 140 plus 0.375. So it's going to be 0.140 plus 0.375 equals 515. 515 thou, full scale, doubled up, 2:1 scale is going to be 1 inch and 30 thou. So 1 inch and 30 thou will be transferred onto this bottom line here. 1 inch and 30 thou. So from the 5-inch point, I will mark 1 inch and 30 thou, which is going to be here. It's going to be this guy here. Okay, so that is first one. And then we've got this one here. Okay, this is again another 3/4 inch hole, but the radius 3/8 is going to be added to this measurement here. So whatever this measurement is plus 375 thou. So this measurement is 1.14. 1.14, we're going to round it up to 1.15. 1.15 plus 0.375 equals 1.525. So 1.525 is the full scale times 2, 3.50 thou. 3.50 thou is measured and transferred on this bottom line again. 3 inches and 50 thou. So we'll start from the 7-inch mark. That'll give me that my measurement should read 10 inches and 50 thou. So it's this one here. Okay, so I should start drawing these lines to prevent confusion because I've got multiple marks here now. So this one is 1 inch and 50 thou. This one here, I'll just quickly draw these lines so I'm not going to get confused. Okay, so this is the 1 inch and 50 thou, the center of the first hole. That's one. And the other one was 3 inches and, what was it? 3 inches and 50 thou. 3 inches 50 thou. Just double check. This is the second line. Second line would be, so second mark here is going to be this guy here. So project it. That's the center of the second hole of the far hole. Okay. Now, I need to also locate the center of this hole. So again, same process. Measure this thickness, which is 625 thou. 0.625, so it's going to be 0.625 plus 0.375 equals 1 inch times 2 is 2 inches. That was simple. So 2 inches will be marked on the same horizontal line again. Starting from the 7-inch point, at the 9-inch point I put a little dot here on this bottom edge here, bottom horizontal edge. That one there, and I'll project the vertical line up just at where I need it. I don't have to draw it all the way from the bottom to the very top. So it going to be just this area here. So I'm going to draw it from, let's say, here down here. So that reduces my erasing. So the centers laterally are marked. Now I also need to find out where they are located vertically, the centers, right? So I need to do some more measurements taking. Okay, so we know that this depth is 70 thou from here to here. So whatever this thickness is plus 70 thou plus 0.375, which is super simple. So this is 0.39. 0.39 is the thickness of that sidewall there. 0.39 plus 70 thou, 0.070 plus 0.375 equals 0.835 times 2, scale it up, 1.67. 1.67 is the height of the bottom holes from here when scaled up. 1.67. 1.67 will be marked on this line here. 1.67, I will align my 670 thou with the bottom of this horizontal vertical line here. That's a 670 thou, and 1 inch would be at the 4-inch mark here. Okay, so this is the center of the bottom holes. So what I need to do is to project a line, this doesn't make it, from this point to this vanishing point. This is the main principle of the perspective drawing. For all the horizontal references, horizontal planes, horizontal edges, to converge at the same vanishing point. So this is here, and this is here, and I'll just draw the rest of this line for your reference. You could see actually it's the continuation of these two guys here. And this one here, how high is this one? This is 70 thou plus this dimension, which is 1.26. I rounded it up, it was 1.257, so 1.26 plus 0.070 plus 0.375, the radius of that circle is 1.705 times 2 equals 3.41. 3.41 basically transferred to this vertical line here. 3.41, so 3 inches and 410 thou. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to line up my 410 thou to the bottom of this vertical line and go work it and measure up. This is the 410 thou. I go up 1, 2, 3. Put a little dot here, so it's barely visible. Now I need to draw a vanishing line from the right hand vanishing point to that mark that I can't see. Oh, actually I gotta double check. I can kind of see it. So I'm gonna measure from the 3-inch mark there. Yeah, 6.41. Just to be sure, you don't want to regret not double checking. This is our industry. Double check, check, double check, check again. And if in doubt, ask somebody else to check your work. There is no shame in that. So this is the center of the hole, and I'm just going to draw the rest of the vanishing line so you could see it actually goes all the way to the same vanishing point. Okay, so the holes are located where they are in this block. Now, I need to draw the holes as well. How do I draw the holes? So remember we started with a full block to basically to come up with our dimensions and everything. When you're drawing these holes, you want to basically you want to box them into squares. So the squares are going to be drawn around where the hole is exactly to the same exact dimension of the holes. So the hole is going to be inside that square. Okay. If these holes are basically, if you're drawing an orthographic or oblique drawing, and this is your front view, you have no problem. You just locate the center of the holes, and all you gotta do is to use a circle template and line up these little tick marks as you see, 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and 3 o'clock, and line them up with these lines. And basically that'll basically help you align the circle with, basically center it to the center of the hole, and you trace it out. But since this is perspective, there is a bit of a technique in drawing these circles so they're going to look nice. Okay, so to do that, you need to basically draw a square around these holes, where the holes are going to be. So, how do we do this? Our holes are 750 thou in diameter. So we need to draw squares, one square for every hole, which is 750 by 750, or 3/4 by 3/4. And this is a scale of 2 to 1, so it's going to be 1.5 by 1.5. Okay, so the 1.5 by 1.5, we do have the center points of our, basically of our holes here marked here, right? So 1.5 being the total dimension of the square, so half of that is going to be 750 on either sides of the center points. So I will basically measure 750 this way, 750 that way for every one. So this one here, it's going to be, go from the 8-inch mark, go 750 this, actually I could use the fractional scale. That makes it a little bit easier to read. So from the 8-inch mark, I go 3/4 of an inch this way, which is 3/4, and 3/4 of an inch this way. This is another 3/4. Okay, I'll just go ahead and draw these lines make sure your sliding square is sitting relaxed before you lock it, so it is as square as possible. So this is one of those 3/4 inch marks, the left hand 3/4 inch mark here. Okay, so I'm going to draw it where I need it. I'm not going to make it too long. And the other one, I better double check. I'm having too many spots here. Too many marks. 3/4 of an inch is this one here. So I was assuming it's this one here, but good thing I double checked. So never assume anything. If you're going to assume the worse, not the better scenario. This is for this guy here. And for this one, I need to do the measurements. So here, which one is my center point here? This is my center point here. I'll measure 3/4 of an inch this way, and 3/4 of an inch the other way. So from the 8-inch mark, this is 3/4 of an inch this way, and this is the 3/4 of an inch the other way is going to be here. So one is this, and one is that one there. I can't even see this one here. Oh yeah. So this one here. Got to hold my pencil right there to not lose the point. the other one is this one here. There's only one of them marks. One mark here. This is not too bad for now. Okay, that's for this guy here. So the center of the top hole is this one here. So I need to do the same thing for this hole. This is the center mark here. Going to hold my pencil right there so I'm not going to lose it. So 3/4 of an inch from the 9-inch point. This way is this guy here. And 3/4 of an inch this way is going to be this way, or here. Okay, so this is one of them. This is one side, and the other one, this being the center. See, there are so many dots here, you could easily lose your target. 3/4 will be here. And there we go. So we've got the width with the lateral measurements transferred. Now you got to do the same thing for the vertical ones. So this being the center of these two holes, the same thing will happen here. 3/4 of an inch below and 3/4 of an inch above, that center point will be marked. This is 3/4 this way above and 3/4 below. Okay, so now remember the concept: vanishing points, vanishing lines. So these squares are going to be drawn in perspective. Okay, so here, just going to draw the lines where I need them. That'll reduce my erasing efforts. That's the bottom edge. And the top edge is going to be double check. Won't hurt to double check. Good. That's a 3/4 inch point. And from here, going to draw the top of this one, draw the top of this one, and for our reference, the vanishing line. Alright, so the center of the upper hole is at this point here. Is it? Double check, yes. So the same process is going to be used for the upper hole. 3/4 of an inch below the center mark and 3/4 of an inch above it. This one here. Oh, a bit higher. Just a tad. You guys have a better view than I do because I'm looking at it at an angle. So this is one, and this is, I'll double check. This is the second one, this is the first one. And the lower one. So I'll check the top one. So the lower one, I do have a sharper pencil here. I've got two pencils. So from here, I go there, and I draw my vanishing line for our reference. And I know for sure that's the one. That's my point there where I want to be. That's the 3/4 inch mark. This dot is a little bit bigger than the rest. So this is from here, this is the top of my square for the upper hole. And that's where the holes are going to be. Okay, so Alright, so gonna sharpen my pencils again. It's nice to have multiple pencils so you don't have to stop too often. Alright, now how do we draw the circles? There's a neat little technique that requires drawing a line from the corners across from each other, from kitty corner to kitty corner, right? So one line from one corner to the other one. Okay, so you want to do a really nice job on your line work because that'll determine how good the quality of your drawing is going to be. Okay, one this way and one this way. And the same thing for the other two. One. And where is it? There. One this way, one this way, there we go. And those are the short lines. You need to draw the longer ones too. Now the longer ones, once you do this once or twice, you notice that you don't really need the longer ones. You only need the shorter ones. But I'm going to do this so you guys have a good understanding of how to draw the circles in perspective projection. Okay, so I've got these corners connected. Now, what you want to do is the technique is to take the shorter line here. See, we've got a diamond shape here, right? But in these represent, each one of these diamonds represent a square. But we're going to call it a diamond because it looks like diamond, right? Right now. So the shorter leg, or the shorter line between the two corners, the kitty corners here, we're going to take each half of this shorter leg and divide it by 4 and mark the 3/4 inch or the 3/4 point of it. Okay, so this measures, let's see, what does it measure? It measures gotta go this way. It measures, or maybe this way, it measures 650 thou. 650 thou divided by 4 or times 0.75. So 0.650 times 0.75, it's 487 thou from the center this way. So 3/4 of the way from the center that way, we'll put a little mark there. 487 thou. 487 thou on either side, or at least on this side here. For every one, I believe we need to measure. So this is a 0 point, 475, 400 and, what is it, 87. 4.88, 408, 0.487, it's going to be 0.49. It's going to be hard to see this with unaided eyes. That's for this one here. This one here measures, we're going to measure the center of these two lines, where these two lines intersect. We don't care about these two. So here is going to be 600 thou. 600 thou, the 3/4 point of it is 450. So 600 thou times 0.75. So 0.6 times 0.75 equals 450. So 450 thou from the center this way. We'll put a little dot there too. 450 is right there. That's our 450 line. And we don't care about the long ones. The long ones are just reference, so you could differentiate between the longer and the shorter legs. For the other ones, you don't really need the longer lines to be drawn. Got to be a bit more careful with the pencil as you handle it, so you'll not create unwanted lines. Got to be a bit more careful. Okay, so I will erase these when I'm done drawing my circle. And actually it's some of these are caused by the edge of the pencil, or by the tip of the pencil chipping off and being dragged across the paper. And some, I admit, I had the pencil in my hand as I was measuring and transferring the measurements. Okay, so I'll do the same thing for the, I'll do this one here. Okay, so for this one here, to draw these circles, the quickest tool is to use a circle template. Okay, you got circles of various diameters, starting from 1/16 going all the way to 2¼ inches. So what you want to do, you want to choose the circle that creates an arc from right there, from this point to this point, as close as possible to this mark here. Okay, so that circle, let's just start from the let's start with the what is this, an 1¼ inch circle. The 1¼ inch circle is actually too small. We go up higher in diameter, so the 1 3/8 is too small, so you got to go to 1½ inch. 1½ still not there. Next one is 1 5/8, not quite there. We're getting close. So the 1 3/4, actually it's getting closer. So what you need to do is to have an arc from this point to this point to this point, to basically to make a line or connect all those 3 points. So this is 1 3/4. 1 7/8 is getting closer. 2 inches, and 2 inches not quite where we want it. 2 1/4, which is basically the largest circle that we have available here, is the one that is the closest to what we need. Actually, the 2½ inch circle would be perfect, but this is what we got to work with. Okay, so, and you will go ahead and draw an arc here. So that is one part. The same thing will happen on this side here, in this quadrant here, and this quadrant of this supposedly square. So the 2 1/4, the 2 1/4 is the closest that we could get to the size of the diameter of a circle that will connect all 3 points here. Okay, so we've got these 2 arcs drawn. Now for the rest of it, we use a circle that connects these 2 arcs together through a continuous, basically a continuous curved line without any breaks in it. So you got to locate that circle. So starting from this large one here, there's going to be a big break here that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. So we'll work it down, work our measurement down. This is too big. We go to this one here, too big. We're getting close. This one is almost there. And a 3/4 inch circle, a little too big. What's the next one here? The next one here is, actually a little too small. This is probably the closest one. Yeah, the 13/16 happens to be the one that's going to do the trick. So we just connect the two ends of these two arcs on this side, and hopefully the same circle. What was it, 13/16? So 13/16, I'm going to draw this line a little bit better. You might need to fudge it a little bit, slide it up and down a little bit just to make sure that you'll end up with a nice continuous curve. Okay, that's the other one. So 13/16, 13/16 being this one here. So 13/16, we really don't care about the diameter, it's just what is pleasing visually. That's what we're looking for. Essentially what you're doing is to draw a sketch for an engineer to discuss a modification or a repair. So this is how you draw your circle in perspective. Okay, so this is this one here, and the other one is going to be the same process, the same thing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to measure this, the half of this short leg, and whatever that is at the 3/4 inch, or the 3/4 of the way, and I will mark it. So this is 600 thou, so 450, and this way is, how long is it this way? They may not necessarily be the same. So this way it is 540. So 540 times 0.75, 0.54 times 0.75 equals 405. 400 thou. The 5 thou is going to be incredibly hard to see on this scale. 400 thou. Okay, so that's, so all we need to do now, it would be nicer to have, to locate where our center line touches the outlines of the square, which is this one and here. So those are our references. Okay, so 2 1/4 worked really well here. Let's see if it's going to work here as well. 2 1/4 is actually a nicer, it's a nicer fit for this one here. Still not quite the perfect one. It's a little bit better than the first one here, because as we get further away from our focal point, the dimensions appear to be smaller. So this is the top left quadrant. Do the same thing to the bottom right quadrant. And there we go. Now find the circle that connects these two lines with a nice curvature without any breaks. Without a break. So this one here seems to be a little bit on the smaller size. On the smaller side here. Actually, this looks better. The first one looks better than the second one here. So I'm going to draw this part here, and hopefully it works for this side as well. Again, you got to use, maybe you need to use different size circles to make it work. It's not written in stone what size circle you need to use, or the same circle you need to use for both sides. Whatever works best. Okay, so this is the bottom left quadrant. I'll do the same thing for the upper hole. The upper hole, again, the short leg, half of it, I measure that. This one here is 600 thou, so at the 450 point, put a little mark there, and that way it measures 700 thou. 700 divided by, actually it's 680 kind of. So 680 is 450 plus 480 plus. So 680.68 times 0.75 is 510. 510 thou. So 510 thou would be here. It's going to incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard to see these little graduations on the 100th scale. Okay, so what I need to do, maybe just transfer the center line of this hole here to the edge of the square, so I know this is my reference, where my curvature starts and ends. So again, find a circle that gives me an arc that works best to connect these three points. The 2 1/4, let's see our 2 1/4. Oh, 2 1/4 actually that works really well here because of the location. Okay, this goes here. So you want to pay attention to your line work because the way that the lines are going to connect, you want them to be without a break or an offset. Upper left quadrant and the lower right quadrant, same deal, same diameter circle works perfect here now. Okay, so there we go. From here to here to here and back, just to make it nice and dark. Now these two guys here, I'm going to go with this circle here, let's see. It's a little bit on the smaller side, and this happens to work. Wow. Okay, that's that end. And for this end here, what works for this end here is going to be this circle. I'm not even paying attention to the diameters, to the sizes. Just want to be visually pleasing. Okay, so once you drew your circles, what you want to do, you could actually get rid of all of these construction lines. I actually drew them dark, really dark, so you could see them because this is being basically recorded by a camera. The lighting is not perfect. The angle of the light that basically reflects the light back into the camera, and it makes it hard to see. So I had to draw them really dark. So when you guys draw yours, you want to draw these construction lines as light as you possibly can so you can barely see them yourself. And when you erase them, they will be barely noticeable after they're erased. This eraser actually is doing a good job of removing these dark pencil lines. Imagine how nice of a job you could do if you just drew these lines nice and light. So now get rid of the construction lines here. If you erase a portion of your circles, it's fine. You basically set your circle template right on it. Find the correct diameter circle and basically redraw that portion of the line that you accidentally erase. So So it should be a lot easier for you guys to get rid of these construction lines, and you don't need to draw all the construction lines, especially when it comes to these kitty corner connectors. Okay, so there we go. The construction lines are mostly removed. They're actually pretty stubborn because I drew them really dark. And I'm trying not to erase any part of my circles. Here, I do the inside. Here, here, and here. You got the idea. Okay, so you remove your basically construction lines, and there you go. There's your circle in perspective. Or if you're really good drawing these circles or these basically arcs freehand, which is not going to be as neat as using a circle template. You could do that too, but again, the quality of your drawing is going to affect the bottom line, which is the mark of your project. Okay, so this is how you draw your circles for these 3 holes. All right, so now we need to draw these radiuses on the top corners, or the corners of the head. And these radiuses happen to be 3/16 of an inch. I've got a radius gauge here, and the 3/16-inch radius blade happens to be in a basically happens to be matching this radius pretty good. So 3/16 of an inch radius is taken from basically a circle diameter of 3/8. So a 3/8 circle will have a 3/16 diameter. So 3/8, where's my 3/8 circle here? I'm just double checking. Yeah, so 3/8, 3/16, right? And this is 2:1 scale, so I need to double this up. So 3/8, I'll go up to 3/4 when you double it up. So, and that's going to be this circle here. So 3/8 is, if I my radius was at this corner here. Remember, as you move towards the vanishing point, every dimension gets smaller and smaller. You could see this height here is 4 inches here, but if you measured it here, it'll be less than 4 inches. Okay, it gets smaller and smaller as you go further towards the vanishing point. So this radius at this corner, if I drew it, must be 3/16 or doubled up to 3/8. But as you go further away from this corner, it should be smaller. So I'm just gonna do a kind of an educated guess, take an educated guess, and go from 3/4 inch circle to maybe 11/16, 1/16 smaller. And I'm just gonna lay the circle right in the corner here and draw my radius. And again, this is going to be visually pleasing. Doesn't have to be dead on when you're producing a sketch with absolute bare minimum. Well, almost absolute bare minimum. Okay, so this radius. Okay, you want to draw your radius in such a way that the arc is going to end right on this straight line here. Okay. So what I see here, this line is actually very visible, nice and visible in real life. What I see here, but when I look at my screen, it's not as clear as I see here. So that was what circle was. It was 11/16 circle here. I'm going to, and that's could be, there could be various reasons for that. The lighting, the angle of the camera, the quality of the camera, and so on and so forth. So this is one of these radiuses. So the opposite one, I need to draw that radius as well. So as I go from this corner further and further towards the vanishing point, every dimension appears to be smaller. So if this is 11/16 here, as I go towards the vanishing point, this has got to be smaller, a little bit smaller. So I'm going to take another educated guess. From here to here, I dropped it down by 1/16th, but from here to here, I got to drop it down by 1/8 of an inch to be proportional. So 11/16, 1/8 of an inch would be, drop it down, would be 9/16. So 9/16. There we go. Okay, now our radiuses are drawn. What you need to do now is to draw a line from where the radius starts and ends towards this vanishing point, both of these, because you want to know where to draw this radius here. You can't just use the same diameter circle to draw this radius, because again, from here to here, the dimensions start to appear smaller. So I need to find out where that radius starts and ends. So I won't do any guesswork anymore. I could use my vanishing lines to do some of the work for me. So from the starting point of this radius, I will draw a nice and dark line here right over the where the block is, because those lines are needed when you hand in your drawing, because they represent where these radiuses start and end, and they actually make the drawing look nice. So here, this is where where the end point is, and go from here nice and dark, and the rest of the way is going to be light. Okay, so I'm going to draw this. The radius is starting point all the way to the corner, nice and dark. Okay, now the same thing happens here. This is the starting point of this radius here to the vanishing point. Nice and dark from here to here. And then light the rest of the way. So we see the starting point of this radius, but we don't see the ending point of it because it's hidden. All we're going to see is going to be this part of the radius. It's not going to be the ending point. So it's going to be right over where the curve is. And that is going to be a straight line connecting the vanishing point to this curvature, because this is what we're going to see, and that's it. Okay, and there, that's going to be our object line, what we see, the edge that we see there. Okay. And that's a nice and dark line there, and a light line for reference. Okay, so now I need to find the circle that gives me an arc that connects this point to this point, that is visually pleasing. For a quarter of the circle will be there. This circle is too small. This circle seems to be a little too big. How about this one here? This seems to do the trick. So my pencil is pretty, it's in need of a little bit of a sharpening. Do both of them. Okay, so we draw this one here nicely. And this one here, we're going to see just a smidge of the radius on the back. So you don't have to have a big radius there, as long as there's a bit of a radius there. So it appears to be a radius. It doesn't have to be a quarter of a circle. Just to give you the visual effect of a radius. Okay, so what else do I need to do? So right now, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get rid of some of these construction lines just to make it a little bit nice and clean and clear here, because I'm going to draw the hole for this slanted shoulder here, which is this guy here. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of am I going to need those lines there? Just double checking here. Maybe I should leave them for now, just in case I'm going to need them later. I don't have to redraw them. Okay, so now this hole is exactly at the center point of the thickness here. This thickness, we agreed on 1 and 180, 1 inch and 180 thou. So the center of the hole is at the halfway point of 1.18. So 1.18, half of it is 590 thou, and then double it up, because this is the 2-to-1 scale, and it's going to be the same, 1.18. So 1.18 measured this way is going to be marked on here, the center of the hole. That's going to be transferred up. So 1.18, I will go ahead and mark. So I'm going to line up my 180 thou past an inch mark. Let's say 7.18 here, with this point here at the end of this line here, the end of this line here. I'm going to line that up with 7.180. And when I go back this way at the 6-inch point, that would be where my 1.18 is going to be. Is it? Let's see. 1.18. So is this 1.18? I gotta double check. It's not. It is 1.80. I'm glad I double checked. So this is 1.18. Always check. We are humans, and humans are capable of making mistakes. Once you make a mistake, just admit to it and correct it and go for it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, set my sliding scale or sliding square, and transfer this measurement up to here, right? So this is the center of this shoulder's width or thickness. Okay, now I need to project a line this way to represent the center of that hole. Okay, so the center of it is going to be, okay, so I'm gonna remove my sliding square. Okay, now I need to basically extend this a line, basically draw a line from the center point of the block's thickness this way. Okay, so this is right in the center. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark the center of this edge here, because this has got to be visually pleasing, right? So it's got to look correct visually. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure this dimension here, the corner. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure the length of this corner here and divide it by 2, and that's going to give me the center for the center of the hole. Okay, so since this is the center, I could actually do it right on here. I don't really have to do it here. Just find the center point of this length. Let's see if that's going to work out here. So this measures 1 inch and 700 thou, and I'm at the 850 thou point, which is pretty good. Okay, so it works. So find the center point of this line here, which is going to be 1 inch and 650. So it's going to be 825 thou, which is right there. Okay, and I'll project a line this way. So I'm going to draw a very light construction line there, so it's easy to get rid of. And also the center of the hole is going to be basically the hole, as you could see, the width of the hole, or the diameter of the hole, is the same as the width of the shoulder. Okay, so basically the center of the hole is the center of this shoulder, the slanted shoulder. So what I'm going to do, I will measure this length here, whatever it is, I just divide it by 2. It's 800 or 780, 780, it's 8, yeah, it is 780, 790. So it's going to be 350 plus 40 is 390. 390 thou here, and this one here happens to be 900 and 950 thou. So 450 plus 25, 475. Oh boy, that's going to be a little bit. Okay, so this is the center point of the shoulder this way. Okay, so there. And it goes towards the vanishing point. Okay, we don't really care about this line ending up at the vanishing point, because this is just showing us where the center point of the slanted shoulder is for the hole. Okay, now the hole, I believe these holes are 7/16. 7/16 from here to here. I will just use my fractional scale, and no, actually they're 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch, scale it up to 2 to 1, it's going to be 1 inch, and we need 1/2 inch to be marked that way and 1/2 inch this way. Okay, so now those measurements need to be transferred to this leg here, to this edge here. I just need to verify, actually this is the center point. So the center point is here, and I need to go 1/2 inch to the left and 1/2 inch to the right, and this is the 1/2 inch to the left, and this is the 1/2 inch to the right. Okay, so I'll reattach my sliding square, lock it in place, attach my rapid set square. This is where the hole starts. Remember, we need to draw a square in perspective for the hole to be basically drawn within this square. And there we go. Okay, so these are those half-inch points. Okay, so now I will remove my sliding square again for, I don't know, 23rd, 30th. Now I need to basically complete my square here. It appears like I don't really need these construction lines. I could start getting rid of some, at least for the clarity. Okay, so what I need to do now is to transfer these two measurements from this edge to the other edge to be able to draw my square. And again, the perspective drawing that we're doing is just a sketch, and it needs to be visually pleasing. So from here to here is ½ inch, from here to here is 1 inch, and from here to here is another ½ inch. So what I need to do now, because from here, from this plane, I need to transfer these measurements to this plane, that basically ½ inch into the thickness of my block. And it's ½ inch closer to the vanishing point. So this ½ inch will get smaller here, and this ½ inch will get smaller here. The difference between this leg and this leg is 50 thou. So I do an educated guesswork of how much of that 50 thou is going to be basically divvied up between these three segments. So it's about 10 thou or so for each one. So from here down, what I did, I basically paused the camera and started erasing some of these construction lines just to make it clear, a bit more clear, so we can see what's happening here. Okay, so what happened here? We know that this measurement is 1 inch and 700 thou here. The measurement of the shoulder here is 1 inch and 700 thou, and this one is 1 inch and 650 thou. So the difference in length is 50 thou, because this dimension gets smaller and smaller as it goes closer and closer towards the vanishing point. Okay, so the difference is 50 thou, we got ½ inch here and ½ inch here, and the width of, or the diameter of the hole is going to be a bit inside a 1 inch by 1 inch square. So the difference between these two legs is 50 thou. So I'm going to 50 thou. This 50 thou is going to be, I'm going to divide it between these three segments here. It's going to be about 10 thou or so for each one. So from here to here, or from here to here, it measures half of an inch. I'm going to mark 490 thou from here to here. 485, 490, I'm just doing a guesswork there. Okay, so the difference is only 50 thou, and again, this is just a sketch, and it needs to be pleasing visually. So this distance here, whatever this is, I just reduce it by just a small amount and transfer it here. And this happens to be 370 thou, so I'll make it 360 thou here. 360 thou here. There we go. This is how our square on this slanted shoulder, because you got multiple planes to deal with, and it's perspective, the slanted shoulder, so you need to do what it takes to make it visually right, or at least as close as possible to a visually pleasing drawing. This is just a sketch. Okay, so we'll use the same technique as we did for these holes. So you draw, and I'm just going to draw the shorter leg. So the shorter leg is going to be this one here, so there's less erasing to do. Just going to draw the short leg here. Is it visible there? Yes, it is. So I'll measure this dimension, and at the 3/4 point of it, I will put a little dot there. So from the 5-inch point, it measures 400 thou. So the 3/4 point is 300 thou. Right there, little dot there. This way, it measures from 500 thou, goes up to 470. So 470 times 0.75, 0.47 times 0.75 equals 352, or 350. The 2 thou is going to be incredibly hard. 350 is going to be, 350 point is going to be from here coming down this way. This is a 350 point. Okay, so all I need now is to locate a circle with the diameter that's going to help me draw an arc from this point to connect it to this point and this point. I should be able to find a circle that does that. Too big. And this happens to be a little on the, it's actually looking not bad. Let me try the other one. This one is better. Or maybe this one. Let's see. Let's see which one works best. This is too big. This is almost on the big side. And this happens to be, is this the right one? Is this the one? No. Where is it? This is the right one. I think we found a Cinderella. Okay. I need to push it down that way. Okay, so there we go. That's the bottom arc there, and the other arc is going to be from here to here to here. Which circle is going to be the one that's going to give us that arc. Is it too small? Let's see. A larger one. You need even larger than that one there. This is getting better. And this happens to be the one. Well, actually, maybe try the next one up in size. This is actually nicer. I like this one better. So there we go. Here we go. Okay. Okay, now let's connect those two arcs. This is going to be a little bit finicky here because the hole is on a slanted shoulder, and when you draw this circle, you'll find out how uneasy it is to draw this one here. Okay, that's that part of it here. Let's complete that arc. Or make it uniform or continuous. And from here to here, what do we have? That'll help us do that. Okay, I'm not very happy about this part here. What I could do, I could try correcting it. It looks a little bit incorrect. Maybe I need to go with a smaller diameter hole. And okay, looks a little bit better. Okay, it looks better. So what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and remove the construction lines. And again, this is a sketch and it needs to be visually pleasing. you need to fudge some of these lines to make this circle looking continuous, you go ahead and do that to make it happen. So what I mean is, this here, I could actually make it more continuous by using the right size circle to allow me connect these two with a continuous arc. And here, same circle happens to work here as well. So each portion of this circle, this hole is drawn basically traced out of a different size circle. So these circle templates come pretty handy. They're very handy for a project like this. Gonna get rid of that. Okay. So the circles are the hardest part of this project, especially this one here. This is the absolute hardest one. You have to basically make it work. Or I shouldn't really say the hardest, the least easy part. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of these construction lines. But I'm going to leave my vanishing lines. Okay, this corner. Okay, and this corner. Okay, this is, well, I don't need this line here. Erase there. Erase this part here. Erase this part here. I'm just going to leave the vanishing lines for you guys to see. I don't think if you guys need to be proven at this point, you watch the whole thing, how it happened. Okay, and down here, I need to get rid of this line here. I don't need it. And remember to remove these two little lines here. So the ease of this for you guys to remove the construction lines is more than what I've got here, because I drew these lines very, very dark. So I gotta work hard to get rid of them. You will draw them very faintly and very, very light. So once you're done drawing, you could go over your object lines and basically darken them. Remember, if you happen to erase some of these portion of your circles accidentally, you could always locate the circle diameter that matches the portion of your circle under drawing and redraw it. Okay. Get rid of this one here. It definitely helps if you don't need to draw your construction lines so dark. And some of the construction lines you don't even need to draw. But I drew them for the purpose of the video. So it's easy for everyone to understand what happens. I'm just going to disconnect, kind of erase a portion of this, the vanishing lines, just to separate the block from them. Okay, so this is how this block is basically drawn in perspective view or perspective projection. Once you got rid of your construction lines, if the lines are, your object lines are nice and dark and visible, fine and dandy. Otherwise, you could go over them again and very carefully darken them. Okay. So this is how you produce your perspective drawing of this block. What I could do is to darken some of these object lines that are not very visible. When you darken these lines, you got to be careful not to draw offsetting lines. That's that one there. This one here. Gotta be very careful. Okay, this one here. This one here. Okay. So some of these lines are not visible on my monitor, but they're very, like this one here, it's incredibly dark, and that's because of the light reflection of the paper here. Let me see if I reduce the light, what happens? Is it going to be a little bit better? Is it going to be, oh yeah, there it is. Okay, so you could actually see it. It's the light bouncing off the paper that makes that line kind of invisible. Okay, and this line here, I go over it again and darken it so it's going to look nicer. Okay, let's look at it again. See how dark it is. Okay, this one here. And this one, make it nice and dark. Very nice. Okay, this, the bottoms of the legs. If you're careful, you could use drafting pens, which are basically ink pens, to darken your object lines. And you got to be incredibly careful with those pens, because once you make a mistake, you cannot erase the line. Okay, that's for that one there. This guy here. And okay, that shoulder there. And this line here. Gotta be careful with darkening the lines. Going up. This edge here. this edge here, our focal point. And when you do darken your lines with pencil or ink, you got to be careful not to smudge, make any smudge marks by rubbing your hands over the lines. You got to be careful. You could actually have a piece of paper under your hand if your hands sweat, so you could actually have a piece of paper on your hand so your sweat is not going to get transferred onto the paper, on your drawing paper. Okay, and then you'll find the radiuses that you used for these circles and darken your circles. So this is what we used here. Okay, this one here. The perspective drawing is time consuming, and you got to go through this. It basically improves your patience level. So when you go through this project, you need to basically dedicate a decent amount of time to do a good job. Anybody could draw something that is kind of looks like what you need to draw, but you need to basically develop the characteristic or the character that you need to have for our industry. Okay, and this one here. Okay, I could do some kind of cleaning up here. So basically this is how you will go about this project. I could actually darken the other lines just so you guys see how easy it is to produce this drawing. Just gotta have the patience. Okay, this one here, I believe it was smaller than 3/8. Oh, no, it was smaller than 3/4. But that was 11/16. I remember now, yes. This guy. Double check and see if my line is going to be the same line. Okay, I'm going to draw the straight line here. This one was slightly smaller than 11/32, so it was 9/16. I remember that. If I'm correct, yeah. Okay, that's for that. This hole here, light is bouncing off here. Let me see what circle fits that arc there. This seems to be a little too big, and this, happens to be the matching one. Okay, in this part of it, I use a different size circle to draw out that part. How about this one here? Remember, each part of this circle is drawn, tracing out a portion of a different size circle, just to make it visually pleasing. So I'm using different size circles to make this whole look continuous. This part now, a little too small, seems to be right. Okay, so that's for that. Now this guy, it was this circle here. It would be nicer to have different sets of circle templates so you'll have the proper arc for your circles. That's there, and too small. This happens to be the right one. And on this side, this is the right arc here. Okay, here I could actually fix that bit of a discontinuity so it looks continuous. And this guy here, I believe I used a smaller circle for that one, or the same one. What is it? Well, it looks actually the smaller one. No, it seems to be the same 2 1/4 circle. Okay, that's for that side. This is for this side. And it's very nice to see when you guys hand in your projects, your drawings. I could see the pride in your eyes. And when I ask you how long it took, you say a very long time. And I believe you because I know how long it takes to draw one of these. The main requirement is the patience and your dedication towards your project. When you put those two together and you produce a nice project. Okay, here we go. Let me turn this light off, and there it is. This is what you need to produce for your perspective drawing. These lines are actually visible to me, but not on the monitor. it's got to be the lighting. So I'm just going to make them a lot darker. I'm pressing the pencil so much that I'm afraid I'm going to break the tip, and still you can't see that. Let me change the angle of the camera, see if it makes any difference. No, it doesn't. But this line, it's as dark as this line. But the angle of the camera and the way the lighting works, you can't see that line. Oh, there it is. It is visible now. Okay? So basically, this is how you're going to draw your block in perspective projection. And it took me 2.5 hours to do that.